All right, so you're interested in Symbiotic, huh? Well, let me tell you, this isn't just another blockchain protocol. We're talking about something that could totally revolutionize how decentralization works.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
We did a deep dive into an interview with Symbiotic's co-founder, Misha Putiatin, from the Epicenter Podcast.
Oh, cool.
And get this, he's been in the crypto world since, way back in 2011. So we're talking OG crypto experience here.
Wow, that's a while.
But the big issue, right, that Symbiotic's trying to tackle is that launching your own decentralized network, I mean, it's a huge pain.
It really is. It's like, where do you even begin? You need your own token, for one.
Yeah, you need a token.
And then you need enough people to actually want to buy and sell it so you have, a liquid market.
Right, liquidity, yeah.
And then you need reliable validators who are going to keep everything running smoothly. And it all just gets so expensive and takes forever to get off the ground.
It's a nightmare, honestly, but that's what Symbiotic wants to solve.
Yeah, they're aiming to use existing network security to give new projects a boost.
Yeah.
Right from the start.
I love it. So, okay, this is where restaking enters the picture. And it's a pretty wild concept when you think about it.
Yeah.
Instead of starting from scratch with your own token and all that, you could use your staked ETH, right, which is already helping to secure the Ethereum network.
Right.
But you could also use it to support a brand new project simultaneously.
So you're basically getting double duty out of those assets.
Yeah, exactly. More bang for your buck, right?
It's a pretty clever idea.
But here's the thing. Misha actually said in the interview, and I wrote this down, our basic job was to create an alignment of incentives. So when protocols decide to launch, they decide on full-fledged decentralization immediately.
Huh.
They want to make decentralization the default, not some kind of difficult and expensive option.
That's pretty ambitious.
It is ambitious, but hold on a second. How does this actually work in the real world? What's stopping people from, taking their staked ETH and just running off?
Right. That's where liquid restaking tokens, or LRTs, come into play.
Oh, okay.
Think of them kind of like a claim ticket for your staked ETH.
Okay, so it represents your stake.
Exactly. And you can use these LRTs across different networks.
Okay.
So you're not actually moving your ETH around. You're just kind of leveraging its value, right, to help secure these other projects.
That makes sense. So let's say, hypothetically, I'm staking my ETH, and I want to support this new, decentralized social media platform.
Sure.
And it's built on Symbiotic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd get an LRT representing my stake.
Right.
Which would give that new platform security from day one.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing I'd get some kind of reward for doing that.
Of course, yeah. There's got to be some incentive.
And then the platform itself, they don't have to worry about creating their own token or attracting enough stakers to secure their network.
Exactly. They can just focus on building the best possible product. Misha said they could launch, immediately with a huge economic base, which would be a pretty big advantage.
It would be huge, yeah. Speed things up massively. But wouldn't all of this create massive sell pressure on the new platform's token?
Oh, that's a good question.
If everyone's getting rewarded in that token, and then they all decide to cash out at the same time, wouldn't the price just totally tank?
Yeah.
That would make me nervous if I was investing.
It's a valid concern. But Misha argued that restaking could actually lead to lower sell pressure than the traditional methods.
Really? How so?
Well, because new projects could launch with lower initial inflation rates.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, there's room for some creativity, with their tokenomics. Things like dual staking, where you earn rewards in multiple different tokens, or lockup periods that encourage people to hold the token for a longer time.
So there are ways to kind of mitigate that risk.
Potentially.
Yeah, I see. But I'm still a little skeptical, if I'm being honest. We've seen successful projects like Chainlink or Noble take off without, huge piles of money behind them.
Right.
So does the size of this economic base really make or break a project?
That's the big question, isn't it? Misha's pretty convinced that a large economic base creates a stronger perception of safety, which then attracts more users and investors.
Sure. Like a signal, yeah.
Yeah, like it's a stamp of approval. But you're right, security is a multifaceted thing. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just about the money.
So how does Symbiotic actually work on a technical level? Is it all built on Ethereum?
At the moment it is. But they've designed it to be what they call chain agnostic.
Oh, interesting.
Meaning eventually staked assets from any blockchain could be used to secure networks.
Wow. So even if I'm staking on Solana,
yeah,
I could still use that stake to support a new project on a completely different chain.
Exactly. That's the goal, real interoperability.
That's a game changer. But if it's chain agnostic, why keep the core on Ethereum? Wouldn't it make more sense to build on, a more scalable chain?
Misha addressed that directly. He thinks keeping the core on Ethereum lets them tap into that huge network effect.
Oh, yeah.
All the developers, the users, the infrastructure, it's all there.
Makes sense.
They can leverage all that while still branching out to support other chains. It's strategic.
It is. Okay, so we've talked about the basics of restaking and the potential impact of Symbiotic. But what about the potential, downsides or risks?
Well, we touched on the systemic risk earlier, like if Ethereum has a major issue, a security breach, or, a price crash,
Yeah.
that could have a ripple effect across the whole Symbiotic ecosystem.
Mm.
All those networks relying on staked ETH for security.
It's all connected.
Yeah, they could all be vulnerable.
It's kind of scary when you think about it, like multiple networks all suddenly losing their economic security at once.
It would be chaos, for sure.
What a mess.
It's a risk, definitely. That's why Symbiotic needs to make sure those underlying staked assets are secure. Like, as secure as possible.
Makes sense. And have strong risk mitigation strategies to deal with those, black swan events.
Exactly. You have to be prepared. But we haven't really talked about the operators much.
Right. They're a pretty crucial part of this whole system.
Yeah, they are.
And they are responsible for running the infrastructure, right?
Yeah, they're like the validators in a traditional proof-of-stake system.
Okay, so what happens if they misbehave? Or even worse, they collude to, disrupt the network?
Yeah, it's a lot of trust we're putting in these operators.
A lot of trust. What's stopping them from going rogue?
Well, the Symbiotic team is thinking about this. They're looking into things like reputation systems, where operators build a track record,
So you could see who's reliable.
Exactly. And they're also exploring decentralized governance models where the community gets to vote on how the network is run.
I like that.
So it's about finding that balance, right?
Security and decentralization. You want to make the system tough, but you don't want it to be so centralized that it defeats the whole purpose.
Exactly. It's an ongoing challenge for any decentralized system.
It is. And honestly, this all sounds super complex.
Yeah.
I mean, stakers, operators, networks, LRTs.
It's a lot to keep track of.
Could all this complexity actually end up hurting adoption?
That's definitely a possibility. For Symbiotic to really take off, they need to make it simple for people to get involved.
Simplify it, yeah.
Clear documentation, user-friendly interfaces, strong support systems.
If it feels too complicated, people will stick with what they know. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's like that saying, the best technology is the one you don't even realize you're using. If Symbiotic can make decentralization that seamless,
Yeah.
effortless, then they have a shot. A real shot at changing the game.
I completely agree. User experience is everything when it comes to mainstream adoption.
It is.
And we can't forget about the community either. They need to attract developers, people to build on the platform.
And stakers to provide that security.
Right. It's all about building a strong ecosystem where everyone feels like they have a stake, No pun intended.
No, I like it. It's all about that network effect. The more people using and supporting Symbiotic, the stronger it becomes. And it sounds like Misha gets this.
Yep.
He stressed how important it is to support developers.
Right.
Foster a culture of innovation within the Symbiotic ecosystem.
It's amazing, right? All these projects all building on Symbiotic.
It is, and it's not even launched yet.
Right. Before mainnet, even.
Yeah.
Really shows how flexible this whole approach is.
It does. We're seeing, everything from those pre-confirmation services we talked about
Yeah.
to data availability solutions,
Yeah.
even ZK coprocessors. It seems like everyone in the decentralized world is finding a way to use it.
Yeah, I think it shows there's a need for this. Like an easier way to do
It
decentralization.
makes sense. And Misha really stressing that developer support
Yeah.
and the community. That's smart. You need a strong community if you want any blockchain project to really succeed long term.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
But, you've got to play devil's advocate a little, right?
Uh-huh. Always.
Are there risks with Symbiotic we haven't talked about yet? Downsides?
Well, that's systemic risk, right? If Ethereum goes down, it all goes down.
Oh, right.
But also, it's complex, isn't it?
It is. Lots of pieces.
Stakers, operators, the LRTs, all that. Could that be too much for people?
It's a good point. Even for me, someone who, follows blockchain, it gets confusing fast.
Right. How does Symbiotic make this easy enough for regular people to use?
Yeah.
User experience is key here. Documentation has to be clear. Interface is easy, good support.
Gotta hold people's hands a little.
Kinda, yeah. If they can hide that complexity, make it invisible,
They could just work.
then it's way more accessible.
It goes back to that, right? Decentralization that you don't even notice.
Seamless.
If they do that, that's huge for how we build and use all this tech.
No question. But it's not just about the users, right? We got to talk about those operators more. They're running the whole thing, under the hood.
Yep, and a lot of responsibility on them.
Tons, like we said.
What if they're bad? Or they team up to mess things up?
It's a ton of trust we're putting in their hands.
How do we even know they're doing the right thing?
That's where those systems come in, the reputation stuff and decentralized governance. So good operators build up a good reputation over time. Everyone can see that.
So you can track who's reliable.
Exactly. And with the governance, the community has more say in how it all runs.
I like that. More democratic.
Right. But it's always that balance, isn't it?
Between the security and being decentralized enough. Enough checks in place, but not too bureaucratic.
It's tough. Any decentralized system struggles with that.
Big challenge.
For sure. And it's something Symbiotic's actively figuring out. They know it's important. But even if they solve that...
Uh-oh, there's more.
Always more, right? The big question is, does this shared security even work? Long term, I mean.
We're back to that core issue. How much money matters, the economic base, all that.
Yep. Misha's sure that a big economic base means everyone feels safer.
Which brings in users, investors.
Exactly. But like I've said, tons of projects did great without a ton of money behind them early on.
Right. So which is it? Is money everything for security or just part of it?
How much money is enough anyway? No one knows the answer, you know?
That's true. This is something they'll have to keep figuring out as they go.
The whole industry, really. It's like we're having this identity crisis, you know?
An existential crisis for blockchain.
Kind of. We always thought decentralization, lots of people involved, that was the key to security.
Right. Distributed, spread out.
But now Symbiotic's like, what if security is shared, but by a smaller group?
It's a different way of thinking about it.
Paradigm shift, totally. And who knows how it'll work out. There are good points on both sides.
Like concentrating security, maybe that makes you more vulnerable, right?
To an attack, yeah. Or if those few people collude.
But it could be more efficient, too. Faster, cheaper.
Trade-offs everywhere, that's the thing.
We're at this crossroads, I feel. Got to rethink how blockchain security even works. What are we willing to give up?
And Symbiotic's right there, in the middle of it.
They're challenging everyone, making us think differently. Whether they win or not, who knows? But they're definitely pushing things forward.
That's what's exciting, right? Pushing boundaries, trying new things.
Yeah.
And asking the hard questions. That's what drives innovation.
It does. Going to be interesting to see where Symbiotic goes, even just in the next few months, let alone years.
Totally agree. But even if they don't become, like, the model for how to do this...
Right.
Just by having this conversation, they're already having a big impact.
Making people talk about security, decentralization, what blockchain should be.
That's what this show's about, right?
Yeah.
Getting past the headlines, figuring out what all this means.
The deeper stuff, helping people understand so they can make their own choices about getting involved.
Right. It can be confusing, this whole space, so, you know, do your own research, too.
Read the white paper, jump into the forums.
Don't be scared to ask questions.
The more you learn, the better you'll be able to navigate this world. It's changing so fast.
It really is.
You know, it's weird. We've been talking about Symbiotic for a while now.
Yeah.
But I still feel like we barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, that's how it always is with this stuff, right? It just keeps changing. There's always something new popping up.
And Symbiotic is like the perfect example of that. They're not just building a protocol. It's like they're pushing the boundaries of what we thought decentralization could even be.
Right, making us rethink what security means, how these networks should even work.
It's a challenge to the whole industry almost. Like they're saying, come on, everyone, we can do better than this. Let's find better ways to get security, efficiency, all that.
And people are listening too. I mean, look at all the projects that are jumping on board with Symbiotic, even before it's officially launched.
It's true. It's attracting developers, investors, everyone. They see the potential, right? This shared security thing, what it could mean for the future.
It's early, sure, but there's definitely momentum. Symbiotic's tapped into something. This need for decentralization that's easier to get into, more efficient, everyone working together.
And that's what I like about it. It's not just tech, it's the whole idea. Building a community. People who really believe in blockchain to make things better. More open, fairer, all that.
And they're doing it the right way, too. Open to everyone, welcoming, experiment, collaborate, talk it out.
It's a nice change. You know, sometimes blockchain feels competitive, everyone doing their own thing.
Totally. This is like, hey, let's all build this together. Share what we know, make something incredible.
That's what we need if blockchain is going to reach its full potential, right? Working together.
100%. And Symbiotic's showing it can be done. A system where everyone wins, security is shared, innovation can happen.
It's a powerful message. It makes sense to me. We've seen what people can do when they collaborate. Blockchain could take that to a whole other level, worldwide.
Totally. And Symbiotic's a big part of making that happen. They're the builders, the community organizers, inspiring the next wave of people doing cool stuff with blockchain.
So wrapping up our deep dive here, I think there are a few things to really take away from all this. First, Symbiotic's not afraid to push those boundaries, making us rethink what we thought we knew.
Right. Second, it's more than the tech itself. It's a whole movement. People who believe in this want to make a difference.
And lastly, we don't know what's going to happen with Symbiotic, with blockchain in general. But that's what makes it so exciting. We're right at the beginning of something huge here.
It's true. So stay curious, keep learning, stay involved. This journey's just starting. Who knows what's next for Symbiotic and the whole blockchain world?
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Hope you learned something, got you thinking, maybe even feeling inspired. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep pushing those boundaries. That's what it's all about.